Woodturners, I'm Captain Eddie Castlew and welcome to my shop. Got a nice little project for you today. It's fairly simple, but it makes an awesome Christmas gift. We're talking a little salt and pepper shaker. Not a mill, just a shaker. Simple for the kitchen table, the kitchen countertop, the dining room table, just to have around. It's just 2 scraps of lumber and a set of fit-ups. Now, I did this last week on Ustream and had a couple of guys say, hey Cap, on Ustream you really got to zoom through stuff, so can you go through it again and kind of explain some of the things you were talking about? Yes, I can. Now, the kit is from Craft Supply. Now, I can't find them anywhere else, but I did get this at Craft Supply. It's called the Artisan Salt and Pepper Shaker Kit. But search the number. It's 050-7050. 050-7050. Should be right here. Now, the 2 little fit-ups come with stainless steel caps. That's a saving grace for $8.45. They are stainless steel. And a little plastic liners. The liners go into the piece you hollow to start with, where you just core a hole with a Forstner bit. Now, that keeps the salt and pepper away from the lumber. I've got a little something about storing salt and pepper in untreated salt and pepper mills. Sometimes it picks up the flavor of the lumber, and that's not always a good thing. Now, if you want to know how to make these, you know the deal. All you got to do is watch. To start this project, I have this piece of lumber. It's marked ash, but it's softer than most of the ash you've ever had. But it's 2 by 2 by 3.5, and that's more than enough. I drilled a 1-inch hole with a Forstner bit. I touched it up, sharpened it, and then I drilled that hole. The depth of the hole, well, let's see what we made it. I'm about 2 1/4 inches. The depth of the inserts are right at 2 inches. Why am I a little deeper? Because that's to this part here. And when I shape this thing, I may reduce it some. And I don't want to go back and re-drill the hole. So, I know it's 2 1/4, which means I can safely remove about 1 inch before I start looking at the inside. Not a lot of terrible stuff if it goes all the way through, but you want some bottom weight. So we're going to leave a little bottom on it. To turn this, I'm mounting it on a mandrel. Now, I made this mandrel. This is just something I spun. I put it between centers and knocked it to about 1 1/4 inch in diameter. Now I put a shoulder on this end, down here. Then I put it in and I trued it up. When I trued it up, I took my skew and put a depression right here in the exact center. Before I made this the diameter I wanted, I found that center. Why? If I want to keep this. If I take it out and put it back in, I need to re-index it or line it up again. To do so, I can always bring the center back up before I tighten it, and that way it always runs true. That's key. I don't have to keep retruing the thing if I have a center. Keep that in mind when you're making mandrels and deadmen. Now, this will go on there. Now, it fits kind of loose because I don't want to burn the lumber. I don't want to make it nice and easy to work with. If I made it tighter, it would be. So we're going to tighten it up a little bit with a strip of electrical tape. This is good old-fashioned black electrical tape. I want to put a loop around. No magic to this. And then when I put it up there and squeeze it on, it's going to stop up early. It's going to stay back, and this is solid. I wouldn't really have to bring up the tailstock, but I'm going to turn between centers. Now, when you pull this one off, if you damaged a piece of black electrical tape, guess what you have to do? You have to put another piece of black electrical tape on it. Bring up my tailstock because I said we're going to turn between centers. And I'm going to kick up the speed to the top end because this is between centers and it's good and safe. I check the clearance. I have about a 1/4 inch away from the lumber. I do that before I turn the button, and now I'm lighting it up. My first step is with the roughing gouge, and I'm just going to knock down the outsides. I'll wait for my lathe to come up to full speed. So I'm making 2 and I want them identical. I'm going to go ahead and find myself a size I'm happy with and stop there. Roughing gouge tears a little bit, so then I'm going to go to my skew. I'm just going to find it like the block plane of the lathe. That's all. Nice light cuts, because these are nice slices. There's no tearing or anything. That is baby butt smooth. Now, you hear? Listen. This is mixed media. This is audio visual. You hear that noise? That's because I had too much bevel and no edge. I need to turn the cutter on. When I twisted it slightly and got it to cut, I didn't have that banging. This one might go for a little bit different shape. Let's taper it up a little bit. Always keep in mind, what you do on number 1, you have to do it on number 2. With that in mind, I'm going to keep tapering this. I bought 6 of these kits the day after I did the Ustream. By the way, folks, the Ustream is a live interactive television program on Ustream TV Wednesday nights at 7 p.m. Central Time. If you've got questions, you want to chat, you want to turn wood and have a little fun, you can tune in to Ustream TV. That's www.ustream.com.tv, pardon me, and you'll find us. Just for reference, I'm looking for a 2.5 inch piece, right? It gives me a good 1/4 inch in the bottom. I marked that, and I'm going to cut it. But I'm going to cut early, which means back here. Why? Because if it tore or jumped a little bit, I can sneak up on it. I want that cut to be real clean. Also, once I get there, I'm going to get all this out the way. I'm going to leave me about a 1/4, 3/8 inch spigot down in there. That's just so I can stay in centers. But I want to see how my cutter, my skew is, my parting tool, pardon me. I know the names of these, I do. I want to go in at this angle. See where I'm going to make contact? That is a 1/4 inch off that shoulder. And then I'm going to cut that out. What does that do? Well, it does this. You see that shoulder around the outside? And then that nice depression in the center? That's how you get that while you're still between centers. can always clean that bottom up later on. Now, I want to say I'm happy with this design. One thing I do know is way up front, and I need to move you so you can see that. Do you see the shoulder right here? Yeah. That's about a 1/16 heavy, a light 1/8. This shoulder. That shoulder we need so that my dispenser has got a place to stop. If it was sharp, it would not look very good hiding underneath that edge, and it would be very fragile. So we leave a shoulder. See that shoulder? That you can back it out and test it and see if it looks nice, because you can always go back up because you're referenced. You're between centers. But we want that little shoulder. Before we start sanding, I'm going to put a detail. I'm going to come up here about 1/4 inch off the bottom, put a line, go up 1/4 inch and put another line. That's a detail. Now I can take my detail genie and put some little detail in between that. I can burn it with another piece of lumber and burnish it in, African blackwood, or ebony, or I'm getting a brain cramp on it. There's a couple of woods that'll track off and go onto it to leave a band. But I'm just going to take a piece of wire, put a couple of stripes in it, okay, and then I'm going to sand it out. Now, I did the burning first because it raises the grain a little bit right there, and this will take the grain off, a little rise off. Then I'm going to sand it out. Now, I'm at 3,000 RPMs. That's not a great sanding speed. In fact, it's a terrible sanding speed. I want to stop it and show you something. This does not need a lot of work. Why? Because we sliced it with that skew instead of cut it away roughly. We sliced that lumber off. We went downhill on the grain, and we did a very nice job of slicing. You can see when I missed in my hurrying, I didn't straighten this up. It was never straightened up. So, one little pass right there will even up that shoulder. I brought it up through 400 grit sandpaper, and now I'm going to seal it. I'm sealing with Deft Sealer. It's a sanding sealer made by Deft. It's a perfect companion for the Deft lacquer, and I've cut it 50-50 with lacquer thinner, so it's a very workable solution. Goes in and it comes up very nicely, and I'm still between centers. Now, that's a 2-second operation to seal it. Comes up very nicely. This is Deft 50-50. Deft is a lacquer. It's available at Lowe's, Home Depot, and your local hardware store. If you're not in an area where you can find Deft, find a brushing lacquer. Clear. This happens to be the high gloss. I think this piece requires a gloss. I really do. I would build up 3 or 4 coats on this. It may not be all on the machine, but there would get 3 or 4 coats. I would now take this off between centers very nicely. Didn't take much. I can clean this up using my double-edged negative rate scraper. Oh, You might think this is my skew. I'm sorry. Let me go ahead and get out my single edge negative rake scraper. And that's going to clean off that little bottom. Oh, you need to see this. I got to move you. Now that you can see, what I did was take my negative rake scraper and go in and take out those lines and then clean up the flat on the bottom a little bit. Now, I always like to put a little detail in here. So I take my skew, put a line there, and a line a little lower. Why? Because when they turn it over, they're going to see "by Big Guy" written underneath there. It's just something I do. And remember, if you don't sign your work, you're not proud of it. And you don't have to use a big heavy mark slot. Liberty fine 0.2 micron pen, paint pen over the top of the finish will work just as well. Sand it up and then seal and put some deft on the bottom so it looks as good as the rest of the piece. Doesn't that look nice? Now, back to this project. We have this done. Take it off our mandrel here, all right? And we're going to clean up that edge a little bit. Remember, you may want to seal this top edge a little with at least a sealer before you put your piece in. And then when you do put your piece in, you want to put it in with an adhesive, not super glue or anything. And the adhesive can be as simple as that 6000 stuff that looks like silicone. You can actually use some tub and bath silicone. And when it's curing, you can center it all up so it looks even all the way around, because it's a little bit loose on a 1-inch thing. And don't forget, sign your name on the bottom. Now, I have about a dozen sets of these things to make before Christmas, because management saw the Ustream the other night. She came out in the middle of it and said, "I want some." So, I'm on hook for some this year. Maybe you should be too. It's an $8.45 kit. I don't see the technology behind it, but they are stainless steel. The cheap ones, and I went to Walmart looking to see stuff I could retro, not stainless. I carry my little magnet with me. Ding, ding. Not stainless. This one, let's take a magnet to it. Nothing. So, got a pretty good grade of stainless here, which for salt is critical, because I understand from people that live down south, salt eats up stuff. Yeah. Right now. That was a good project. It was easy, and we did it on Ustream Wednesday nights at 7 o'clock. Now, right now, like I told you, I got a bunch more blocks, and I got to make some shavings. So I'm going to get busy making shavings. You take care. Oh, don't forget, if you need cutters, tools, or whatever, check out my website.